Yo bums, welcome back to the Sportsbumz podcast with Alex and Cody.
Yo bums, on today's podcast we discuss the top 10 biggest busts in sports history. We also flamed the hell out of the biggest bum in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield. Remember, the only two sports that matter in America is basketball and football, so there only is NFL and NBA players. Oh, and I forgot, WNBA ain't a sport either, so that's not on here either, but that's besides the point, so let's get started, bums.
Okay, so when we look at busts of the decade for sports, you got to look at the facts. Well, pretty much 50% of the first round of both the NFL and NBA bust. Like, there's so many trash can players who got drafted in the top 10 but are not on my list because there's even worse trash can players getting drafted even higher. We live in a day and age where GMs don't know what the hell they're doing. But first of all, we should just give some honorable mentions because there are just so many busts. One of my personal honorable mentions is Blake Bortles, because with Blake Bortles, they drafted him over Khalil Mack, who's about to be maybe a first ballot Hall of Famer. The only thing saving Bortles is because the other QB that got drafted in the first round was Johnny Manziel. That's the only thing. That's probably the only reason why I didn't put him on my list. And he did make an AFC Championship game, which I will give him credit. But dude,
Carried by the defense.
Yeah, the defense was so loaded. But whatever. And I have a special honorable mention. Baker, you're lucky we're not doing this in 2021.
No, Baker's so lucky. He's got dude, one more year before he's considered a bust, bro. Dude, I was so close to putting Baker on the list, bro.
Baker.
Oh.
You're going to be on the list next year, bro. You're a bust, bro. You're trash, bro. Dude, you make more commercial than wins, bro. You're trash.
I was so close to putting him on the list. He's definitely an honorable mention.
God.
But I have two honorable mentions. One of them is Mitchell Trubisky. He made a Pro Bowl, so I thought about putting him on, but since he made a Pro Bowl, I mean, he was worse than some backups last year. So, I mean, that's pretty bad. And then my personal favorite, honorable mention, Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel. He was supposed to come in, save the Browns. He fell to the Browns. Supposed to save the Browns and take them to the promised land, but, went to too many parties. And
yeah, with Johnny, the reason why both of us can't put him on the list is because he did go 22. So, there's been other people drafted higher. And by the way, you guys got to keep in mind, certain players, they were good or had like an injury or something that kind of ended their career. We value like people actually like playing on the field. Like if there were trash, like with a guy like RG3, I feel like you can't really put him on the list because he was an elite player. It's sort of unlucky. Like the guys I put on the list coming in the NFL, they're just straight trash. They were just garbage. There was no potential. With RG3, we can at least have some sympathy for him because he was a dominant player. Like he was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson, but not as fast as Lamar. But anyways, let's start it off. I'll start off with number 10. I have a bit of an interesting one that I think not many people would regard as a bust. I have Robert Aguayo with the Buccaneers because he's the highest. It's interesting, right?
That's interesting because he was taken really high as a kicker and he got cut really fast.
To take a kicker in the second round is absolutely ridiculous. Like, kickers are not football players. I don't care. A kicker could play soccer, dude. They're not a real NFL player. And to take a guy who's like 130, 6 foot, soaking wet in the second round who does basically nothing besides kick a ball is ridiculous. In his rookie year, he missed 9 field goals and 3 extra points. This guy was supposed to be the greatest kicking prospect of all time. At Florida State, he was literally the greatest college kicker. He was so accurate. He was supposed to save the Buccaneers' kicking issues. And he's out the league in 2 years. For a number 2 draft pick, the greatest kicking all-time talent, he's a definite bust. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting pick. Like, I can't really hate on it because it's true. But, I mean, I didn't really think of a second-round kicker like that. For me, at number 10, I feel like I have a pretty interesting one. I have Sammy Watkins at number 10.
Ooh,
he was the 4th overall pick in 2014. There was so much hype behind him coming out of the draft. I mean, he's underperformed everywhere he's went, whether it's Buffalo, the Rams, or the Chiefs. I mean, Mecole Hardman was a better option than him last year for the Chiefs. He had elite speed, elite talent coming out of college, and he's just underperformed every year. I mean, he barely scratches 1,000 yards in the years that he does get 1,000 yards.
But here's the thing. A lot of the receivers, I totally disagree because he's starting caliber. Like, he's a good enough player. Like, first of all, there's so many busts at receiver this past decade. Like, we could go on with, like, guys like Kevin White, who I will have later on the list.
Yeah, I got him too.
You got one of the GOATs of college football, Justin Blackmon.
Got him
like,
too.
A lot of, like, those guys you could put in the top 10 because they had no production. Sammy Watkins at least can stay in the league. Like, he's a good caliber player. And there's so many other busts in that draft. Like, didn't Greg Robinson get taken over him?
Yeah, Greg Robinson was it too.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know about that because even a guy like Justin Gilbert went like 4 picks after him to the Browns out of Oklahoma State.
He was close to making the list for me.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of guys who just couldn't play. Sammy Watkins can still play, so I don't think you could put him on the list. Because then I could put guys like John Ross, Corey Davis, because all of them don't really have the production of Sammy Watkins. Like, Sammy Watkins, he's still solid. Like,
that's true. I don't know. I just think he's underperformed a lot, so there was a lot of hype coming out of college for him, so.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. He had that Dez Bryant comparison at the draft. I remember watching that.
Yeah.
At pick 9, I have Jahlil Okafor. With Jahlil, there's so many NBA busts in the top 3 this decade, but like with Jahlil, like look at the 3 picks around him. The other 3 were all-stars within 3 years. Cat, D'Angelo, and Porzingis. Those have all been franchise players, and Okafor has just been dumpster fire with the sorry Sixers team. They don't know what the heck they're doing. They had like 5 centers that year. With Jahlil, like he was dominant with Duke, carried them to the national championship. Him, Tyus Jones, and Justice Winslow. That was a great trio. But with Jahlil, the game was just outdated. The dumb GM should have saw this coming. Jahlil couldn't shoot, couldn't mobile, but had insane post move. But that's not today's game. So I don't know why they took a guy like Jahlil Okafor, who now basically rides bench, and he's literally behind guys like Jackson Hayes and Derek Favors down in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, you could say Jahlil. Jahlil was right off my list too. I mean, he does play on the Pelicans now, so I don't feel like it's too bad, but he was a number 3 overall pick, and I mean, he did carry Duke that one year in 2015, but for me at number 9, I have Dragon Bender. The pick was always a question mark, like what the hell were the Suns doing taking Dragon Bender at 4? And everyone was right about it. He's been nothing but horrendous. He's either the last guy off the bench or in the G League. He's only 2 or 3 years in. If he doesn't get traded, the Suns aren't re-signing him. He's lucky.
No, he's not on the Suns anymore. I think he's on the Warriors now. I swore he was on the Warriors.
Exactly. He's lucky if he stays in the G League. He's been absolutely horrendous since the day he's been drafted. Everyone questioned the pick when it happened, and they were all right. So I don't know why the Suns wanted to take Dragon Bender at 4.
Yeah, Bender was especially a questionable pick. I didn't have him on my list, but I'm going to kind of defend Bender because, like, coming into that draft, there was only, like, 2 for-sure picks. Like, remember, like, Ben Simmons and Brandon Ingram. Everyone else, like, seemed very, very, like, not good as prospects. Chris Dunn's a bust, and he went right after, you know?
Yeah, but Chris Dunn's at least been able to play and start in some games or come off the bench. Dragon hasn't even done any of that.
Yeah, but here's my thing. Like, Bender was never an elite prospect. Jahlil was a surefire prospect. They were debating between him and Cat for number 1 overall. So, like, I'm talking about, like, their hype and stuff like that. The rating as a prospect.
Well, that's what I was doing with Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. But I think there's worse busts at receivers as prospects as well, you know, so.
Yeah.
All right, now on to number 8. At number 8, I have Justin Blackmon. Justin Blackmon is literally one of the greatest receiver in college football of this generation. Maybe Michael Crabtree is better, but it's close. Justin Blackmon in college was a 2-time Blitnikoff winner. Only guy to do that besides Michael Crabtree. Okay, just to give you guys a perspective of how Justin Blackmon, how good he was as a player. Jamar Chase was probably the best receiver we've seen in the past 5 years last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, with Justin Blackmon had better numbers than Jamar Chase last year, and Justin Blackmon played 2 less games, and he was playing with Brandon Whedon. He wasn't playing with Burrow. Justin Blackmon was absolutely insane. You could argue the greatest college receiver of this century. But with him, he gets drafted 5 in Jacksonville. He showed some promise as a rookie, but like what many people have is the substance abuse. And that's what ultimately led to his failures.
Yeah, I mean, I have him a little higher on my list, but for me, number 8, I have Derek Williams. Dude was the number 2 overall pick in 2011. He's essentially a bigger version of Derek Jones, but I mean, Derek Jones went undrafted. Derek Williams getting taken number 2 overall. I mean, he was taking over people like Kemba and Clay. I mean, it was just a horrendous pick at 2. I mean, Derek Favors was taken after him, and that's a better pick.
Wait, that was the 2011 draft, right? Wasn't Kawhi Leonard and Paul George after him too?
That just proves my point even more, bro. Derek Williams at number 2 was butt juice.
Yeah. Ironically, I have Derek Williams at 7. Coming into the 2011 draft, Kyrie Irving and Derek Williams were clearly the top 2 prospects coming in. And there's actually a famous Colin Cowherd tweet that said, "This is an easy pick for the Cavs. Derek Williams over Kyrie Irving for sure." It's literally hilarious. Like, you look back at that 9 years later and like, bro, Colin, what are you?
Colin.
Retarded, Colin. His daughter's hot, though. Okay, that's besides the point. That's besides the point. But, you're taking a dunker in the top 3 who literally only dunks. Like, with dunkers such as, like, Blake Griffin and Sean Kemp, they can do other things. They're still
That's right. Put some respect on Blake and Sean, bro. That is right.
Yeah, they're dunkers, but they can play, actually. But with Derek, he has no skills whatsoever. He just literally runs and dunks. Like, he has no other skill. And, it's like the guy, you're 13, you're playing AU ball, and you're just the biggest dude on the court. That's the way he plays. He's just bang, bang. But you can't do that in the NBA. This is not 13, 14U AAU basketball. And that's why Derek Williams is out the league now. I think he actually somehow won a chip in 2016 maybe, because he got signed late in the season. But, bro, he's a total bust.
Yeah, I mean, like you would always say, he's a track and field guy playing basketball. I mean, all he did was run and dunk. But, I mean, for me at number 7, I have Trent Richardson, running back out of Alabama. I mean, he was supposed to come in, be the next running back for the Colts, was horrendous for the first 2 years, then bounced around to another team, then finally the Ravens signed him and then caught him, and then he was out the league. I mean, he had so much hype coming out of Alabama. I think he was a runner-up in a Heisman one year. I mean, he had a bunch of hype coming out of college. Taking number 3 overall for a running back is really, really high.
Yeah, but I actually have Trent Richardson at 6. When you take a running back in the top 3, that means he has to be a for sure Hall of Famer. Running back, you could get so much talent in rounds 2, 3, and 4 with guys like Kamara, Dalvin Cook,
Chris
Kareem
Carson.
Hunt. Yeah, there's so much talent. And when you take a running back guy, he has to be a Hall of Fame type talent, like a Saquon Barkley type talent. And with Trent, he did have an okay rookie year. I think he had 1,300 total scrimmage yards, but he was not the next Adrian Peterson. And the Colts were stupid enough. Jim Irsay traded a first-round pick for him, and right after his stint with the Colts, he's out the league.
Yeah, I mean, for me at number 6, I have Justin Blackmon. Like you said earlier, one of the greatest college football receivers ever. And I mean, it's just the substance abuse thing. It's kind of like what's happening to Josh Gordon right now. They're both great talents, but I mean, they can't get over what they're on. But I mean, just a great talent. He had the 1 year. He played 1 year, but I mean, he had so much hype around him.
Yeah, sucks to see, man. I feel like if he didn't have all the off-field issues, he'd be a dominant receiver in there. But at 5, I have another receiver, Kevin White.
Oh, I got him higher. I got him real high.
With Kevin White, we're talking 25 receptions, 0 touchdowns for a number, 7 overall pick? Bro, coming out of West Virginia, there was a very big debate between who should be the number 1 receiver off the board, Amari Cooper or Kevin White. A lot of people really liked the upside with Kevin White because he was faster, he was better after the catch than Amari Cooper. And now look at today. Amari Cooper signs a 5-year, $100 million deal. And Kevin White is out the league in 3 years, only played 2 seasons with the Bears, and then signs a 1-year deal with the Cardinals and gets cut after that. And normally busts at receiver at least can last a little bit in the league because they do have the talent. But with Kevin White, he couldn't play.
Yeah, I mean, I have him a lot higher on my list, but for me at number 5, this one hurts my soul a lot because this is a Kansas alum, a great Kansas player this decade, the number 5 overall pick in 2012, Thomas Robinson. It hurts my heart, but he was a bust. He got picked over Dame and Drummond, and I mean, he never averaged more than 6 points in the 5 years he played in the league. If you're the number 5 overall pick, I hope you average over 6 points at least 1 year, bro. Like, come on, that's bad.
Okay, I didn't put Thomas Robinson on the list. Here's why. I can't believe I'm defending Thomas Robinson. Like, this is the only thing where I have to defend a bum. But with Thomas Robinson, there was another worst pick in that draft with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist at number 2.
I thought about that, but he's still in the league, so he's bounced around, or he stayed on the same team and he kept getting minutes. So I thought about putting MKG in, but he stayed consistent. He was just taken really high.
But you got to look at like all the other. There's a lot of guys who picked really high who still suck. Like we talking Mario Hezonja, Evan Turner.
Yep.
I think Epe Udo got picked at 5 or 6. Even Wesley Johnson got picked 4. Like
Stanley Johnson.
No, we're talking Wesley Johnson.
Oh, I know he got picked 4.
Yeah, that's bad. Over DeMarcus Cousins. I can't believe it. But, like, Thomas Robinson, like, he wasn't a crazy talent. So that's, like, my kind of argument. With the NBA, I look at busts more of, like, crazy talents that failed. Or if it's just an egregious pick, rather than, like, the NFL, where I just look at higher picks. Because the NBA, after, like, the top 2 picks, it's usually a crapshoot with the teams picking. So, like, that's why I didn't put Robinson on the list. Nonetheless, he's still a bust. Like, everyone can agree. Even the Kansas guy knows he's a bust.
Yeah, it hurts, but it's true.
At number 4, we got Luke Jokel, number 2 overall pick this is the most, I'm about to flame the 2013 draft. This is the
2013 draft was insane.
Oh my God. Just to give you some insight of how bad the 2013 draft is. There was a stretch from 6 to 12 where everyone busted. I'm about to say, at number 6, we got Barkevious Mingo.
He's still in the league, though. He's still in the league.
Next, we have Jonathan Cooper. Guard.
Garbage.
Terrible. After that, we have a gadget guy, Tavon Austin.
He's garbage. He's garbage.
Yeah. At 9, we have D. Milliner. Another bust. At 10, we have Chance Warmack. Another bust. At 11, we got DJ Fluker, another bust. At 12, we have DJ Hayden, another bust. And I'm not even going to bring up who went 4 picks after that. EJ Manuel. This draft is horrible. Dude, this draft is horrible. But Luke Jokel gets my number 4 spot because he only plays 4 seasons. He retired in 4 years. The Jags have had so many busts this decade. I don't even have Blaine Gabbert on my list, Blake Bortles. There's just so many busts with the Jags. And Luke Jokel headlines all of them with the 2nd overall pick out of Texas A&M because they took him over Lane Johnson, who might be a Hall of Famer. That's ridiculous. Luke Jokel over Lane Johnson, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Jags, for me at number 4, I got Blake Bortles. The quarterbacks in that draft were horrendous. I mean, when it was only him and Johnny Manziel in the first round. But, I mean, he was taking over people like Khalil Mack and Mike Evans. Jacksonville always had a need at every position, and they tried to solve the quarterback position, one of the worst quarterback drafts, instead of trying to fill other needs on the team. Now, I know he took him to the AFC Championship, but that was not him. That was solely the defense. He was pretty much only throwing to frickin' Marquise Lee all year and Allen Robinson the year before, but he's not good. For number 3 overall to be a backup now, come on.
Okay, here's the reason why I can't put Bortles on the list. He's decent at least. Like, he'll stay in the NFL for probably 12 years as a backup. And I hate defending Bortles because he's absolutely trash. But he's never really had real weapons outside of Allen Robinson for 1 year. You know what I mean? And he's never really had a great offensive line because all the offensive line they drafted have busted. You know, he did make an AFC Championship. You know, like, I feel like he's not a horrible bust, especially considering how bad of a quarterback class that was in terms of the prospects, you know?
I just think the Jags picked the wrong year to try to fill the quarterback need, so that's why I have it 4.
Yeah. Okay. And number 3, we got another guy in the 2013 NFL draft. Deion Jordan out of Oregon. We're talking about he only started 4 games with the Dolphins. And that alone makes you a bust. The team that drafts you 3rd overall only starts you 4 games. So the Dolphins, they're coming into the 2013 season. They have a chance to have one of the greatest defensive lines if Deion Jordan booms. They have Cameron Wake, who's a top 5 pass rusher at that time. Olivier Vernon, who is also an upcoming elite pass rusher. They trade a 1st round and a 2nd rounder to move up to 3. They just take a total bust. His career was full of off-the-field issues, and it's just a disastrous career, especially considering he just didn't even play. Like, we couldn't even see what he could do.
Yeah. I mean, I have him on my list solely because I didn't know who the hell he was. So, but for me...
That's how bad he is.
Yeah. I don't even know who the hell he was, so I couldn't put him on the list. But for me, at number 3, I have Sam Bradford. Number 1 overall pick in 2010. Now, he did have a lot of injuries, but still, I mean, he was never really healthy. He was always questionable when he was healthy. And, I mean, the Cardinals could have taken a lot better defensive talent or shored up the offensive line because they could have taken Ndamukong Suh, Trent Williams, or Eric Berry. Those 3 were all in the top 10 instead of taking Bradford at 1.
Well, obviously he's a bust, but he's not a really bad bust because he was solid. Like, Minnesota gave up a 1st round pick a couple years ago for him. When healthy, he is a solid NFL quarterback. Like, he's shown it for 5-6 seasons already, you know? He's not a trash can.
I don't know. That's not the way I see it, but
I still think he's solid. I think he's as good as Nick Foles. And it's a big Nick Foles at number 1, but I still think he's solid, you know? He can throw the ball, can run. Obviously, he's a horrible pick at 1, but I don't think he's, garbage. Okay, so at number 2, I have Anthony Bennett.
Wow, you don't have the 1?
You'll wait for number 1.
Oh,
okay?
Come on.
No, number 1, I have a certain argument. But with Anthony Bennett, we're talking about this fatty literally averaged 4 points, and it has a number 1 overall pick. And he played 4 seasons in the NBA. And played for 4 different teams. That's all you need to know. And with Bennett, I will defend Bennett a little on this one because that draft was a really weak draft.
Yeah, but they could have taken Oladipo or Otto Porter.
Otto Porter sucks, but Oladipo, I understand what the Cavs were doing. Bennett had probably the 2nd highest ceiling who was eligible to take at that spot because obviously Giannis took it at 15, but he was unknown. Yeah. But in terms of upside, Bennett and Noel were probably the highest ceiling, and I think they just went with him, you know? So, but he's still a bust. I'm not gonna just, overly defend this scrub, lazy trash can. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about Anthony Bennett in a little bit, but for me at number 2, I have Kevin White. I mean, this dude barely touched the field in the 2 years he played. And, I mean, he was also taking over another wide receiver talent with Devontae Parker. He also got taken over Todd Gurley. I mean, like you said, 25 receptions for a number 7 overall pick. I mean, come on. He barely touched the field, and when he did not make any sort of impact.
Yeah, Kevin White's a definite bust. And at number 1, I have another Chicago Bear as the biggest bust.
No, you put it at 1? Come on, bro.
Yep. Hear me out. Mitchell goddamn trash can Trubisky.
Okay, he is a bust. Okay, let me just say something first. He is a bust. I almost put him on my list. But he did have a decent 1 year where they went to the playoffs and he made a Pro Bowl. But yes, he was worse than backup quarterbacks last year. I fully understand that. But I feel like you can't put him as a bust yet. Or he is a bust, but he's not number 1. He almost made my list at 10, but he's not number 1. Come on, bro.
Here's my argument. In 2030 or 2040, we're going to be looking back, and we took this bum over 2 Hall of Famers and 1 who might be the GOAT. We're talking Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. We're talking 2 who might end up as top 20 quarterbacks all time. Let me just tell you, if Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson were on the Bears with that defense, they could be 2-time Super Bowl champions already. Patrick Mahomes, who might be the GOAT, and Deshaun Watson, who's a top 3 quarterback talent in the NFL right now, and you take this scrub at number 2 who will be out the league in 2 more years. I guarantee it.
He won't be out the league. He'll be a backup. He will not be out the league.
No, he'll be out the league. Okay, but hear me out on this. I think this might be the only guy in NFL history where the 2 guys at his position taken after him were all-timers. Like, they were Hall of Famers. Like, he's the only guy who's going through that. That's why I have him at 1. Like, you got to understand how, like, the gap is between Mahomes and Watson and a guy like Trubisky, you know? So,
I mean, I thought about putting him on my list that around like the 9 or 10 range because he was worse than backup quarterbacks last year. I strongly disagree that he will be out the league in 2 years. He will stay in the league as a backup quarterback somewhere.
Here's why. Here's why he won't last in the league. Because as backup quarterbacks, they want game managers who can maybe do some short passes and understand the system. With Trubisky, he's a total dummy. He cannot throw. He's just a runner. He can't do anything. He runs in circles. He's not a prototypical quarterback. He doesn't understand offense. So he's not set to be a backup. And most teams want backups to be mentors, like guys like McCown or Fitzpatrick who can help the
Yeah.
What kind of knowledge is Trubisky going to give you? Trubisky, he's going to tell you how to run in circles or play tag. Like, he's not going to give you any knowledge as an NFL quarterback, which is why I guarantee you in 5 years, all you guys listening will definitely have Trubisky in your top 5. I'm just predicting the future and just putting him at 1 because I feel like in 50 years later, in 2060, we're looking back and Trubisky was the number 2 overall pick. So it's kind of a reach. I get what you're saying especially, but I'm just going off like what the future kind of holds, you know?
I mean, it is pretty bad when the GM comes out and say, yeah, we whiffed on that quarterback and we could have taken 2 better quarterbacks in that draft. But, I mean, it is a little early for him to be at number 1. Now, for me at number 1, it is the obvious number 1 bust of the decade, Anthony Bennett. This dude was getting comparisons to Larry Johnson coming out of college.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. Go back and look at it. Jay Billis was comparing Larry Johnson to Anthony Bennett. Grandmama, a great NBA player. He's a top 20 power forward of all time. Anthony Bennett.
Not.
Yes, he is. Anthony Bennett. This dude could barely make it up and down the court. He had a decent mid-range. He was tubby. He didn't have a jumper. I mean, dude. He was a garbage can moving up and down the court. It was essentially a smaller Simbalar. He was not good at anything. I mean, dude, he couldn't rebound. He couldn't pass. He's like Kwame Brown, but at power forward. Like Stephen A. said, he can't pass. He can't shoot. He can't do a post move 2 times in a row. He's not good at anything. He's got small hands and big feet. He doesn't know how to move. He's mobile, but doesn't know how to move. He's a bum. A certified bum.
Yeah, Bennett's trash can, but like there wasn't any like all Hall of Famers and GOATs taken after him. Like if Giannis was picked 2 and like they were like in consideration between him and Giannis, then yeah, I'd definitely have been at 1. But like Trubisky, dude, he's bad. I just don't think all you guys understand how bad Trubisky actually is. Don't look at that Pro Bowl. Dude,
no, I know. The Pro Bowl is skewed. Yes, yeah. I will admit the Pro Bowl is skewed. I know it's skewed.
Dude, literally, bums make the Pro Bowl now because all the GOATs, all the great players don't want to play in the Pro Bowl. So they just
Ryan Tannehill made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, Dalton's, I think, a multiple-time Pro Bowler. I think
he made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, a lot of trash cans have made the Pro Bowl, so I don't look at that. But anyways, Baker, you're gonna be on the list next year, buddy.
Baker, you got 1 year to save yourself, buddy. If you don't, you're on the list. Baker, I will insert you top 5 next year. If you do not have a decent year, you need about 25 touchdowns and 10 interceptions to stay off the list, Baker. With the weapons you have, you need that to stay off the list.
Hey, let's make a bet with Baker. If Baker does what we think he does, he should just give us all his progressive commercials, bro. We deserve them, bro. We deserve his commercials, man.
Bro,
give us
Baker,
money, man.
Baker's going to be garbage next year, and Case Keenum is going to lead the Browns to the playoffs with all the weapons he has because Baker is a hothead. He's a small quarterback. Dude, Baker's the definition of a hothead. After the game against the Seahawks where he had 3 interceptions, he starts blaming the medical staff for an injury, not even on him, on OBJ. He's the definition of a hothead. You do not want a midget hothead as your quarterback. He has one more year to save himself from being a bust. That's it. It's not even close. He needs 25 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, and 4,000 plus passing yards to stay off this list.
Hey, just to give you guys an idea how trash Baker is so slow he couldn't even run from the cops, bro. Have you seen that video? Baker, bro.
Don't even get me started on Baker,
luck.
bro. Baker's on another level right now, man.
Baker
thinks he's Peyton Manning right now, doing all these commercials. Peyton's retired, and he's doing as many commercials as Peyton Manning, bro. Come on.
Baker, dog. Good luck, man. I wish you all the best. Actually, not really, but you trash, and I feel like you should donate all your money to charity because you don't deserve any of it, considering you literally do nothing in the NFL, but that's besides the point. Anyways, I could go, dude, I think in the future we should just make a whole podcast just ranting on Baker Mayfield. I think that would be
it would be so easy to do 30 or 45 minutes just trashing on Baker. Come on, bro. Now, his wife is hot, though. I will give him that. He's got a hot wife. He did one thing right, but other than that, Baker's garbage.
Yeah, I think his future in life is like to get advice on getting hot women rather than being like a quarterback for the Browns. But anyway, this is just going on now we're just going on a Baker rant. But anyways, this was the bust of the decade. That's it for today, I guess.
Yeah, it's a wrap, boys.
So that's it for today's podcast, bums. Make sure you guys leave a rating or a comment on the pod and spread the word. Also, make sure you follow us on IG, which is left in the description. See y'all bums next episode.